Right now, I'd like to introduce you to Steve Woolworth. Steve is the Chief Executive Officer of ETS since January of this year. And while Steve came to ETS with a lot of relevant experience and great ideas for the future, who could have predicted what was in store for someone who was about to take over an amazing nonprofit like ETS? Over the past 9 months has been a roller coaster ride. But Steve's experience, his passion for equity, and unwavering commitment to ETS has really provided steady and a guiding light in terms of leadership through this storm. So please welcome Steve. Steve, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I had to unmute myself. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of all of us at Evergreen Treatment Services, I want to welcome you to our first ever virtual event. Many of you know we were originally scheduled to have this event on May 8th at the Sheraton Hotel in Seattle, but the pandemic prevented us from coming together on that day. While we miss getting together in person, the good news is we're able to go global. So tonight, I'm pleased to welcome our friends all the way from France, from Singapore, from New Zealand, and from across the United States. We just knew you couldn't resist another opportunity to jump on Zoom, and so here we are. Thank you for attending. Thank you for our support. Before we get started, I want to take a minute to acknowledge the land in the Puget Sound region of Washington State is the ancestral home of the Coast Salish people. We thank the original caretakers of this magnificent land who persist to this day. We acknowledge the legacy of violence and betrayal upon which our institutions have been built, and we pledge to move forward in a better way to honor native land and to respect tribal sovereignty. I also want to ask us, in recognition of Recovery Month, to take part in a moment of silence to remember our brothers and sisters, daughters and sons, mothers and fathers, friends and acquaintances who we have lost to drug poisonings and overdoses. As you know, the theme of our annual event is Roots of Recovery. Roots are a source of stability, of strength, and of life itself. Without strong roots, a tree cannot grow. The same is true of people and of our communities. Through our work as one of the nation's oldest opioid use disorder treatment providers, and through our pioneering street outreach, jail diversion and reentry, and housing and medical case management services, we assist thousands of our region's most vulnerable citizens every day. We do it by being rooted in the communities in which we operate and rooted in the lived experiences of those we seek to serve. When I started in January of this year, I knew I was joining an organization fundamental to the struggle for health equity and community justice in Western Washington. We are a designated essential service, which means our work has been deemed essential to keeping people alive. And yet we do so much more. We will hear from Maya in a few minutes about drug dependence and addiction, but I want to be clear and upfront that our work at ETS is made all the more necessary by the persistent legacy of institutional racism in our communities, by widening economic inequality, and by the cruel hardships inflicted by a society that chooses to punish and stigmatize rather than to understand and support people who use drugs. What I didn't know when I started earlier this year is the character of the people who work here, their enduring grit, their focused intensity, their endless compassion and deep commitment, their willingness to find humor in the hardest moments, their fierce resilience, and their unwavering courage in the face of risk, inequity, and injustice. I would like to ask all the staff at ETS to wave into your cameras so we can see you. When we coalesced around our theme, we had no forecast warning us about the storms that lay ahead in 2020. But we know that like trees, when people grow close and connect with one another, we can weather life's storms together. That is what our team at Evergreen Treatment Services, those who work at REACH, and those from across our 3 clinics and administrative services have done in the face of this pandemic. I cannot tell you how proud I am of how we have come together alongside our community partners to ensure our clinic and dispensary doors have remained open 6 days a week. Our engagement practices shifted seamlessly to phones and telehealth. Our outreach into homeless encampments in Seattle and South King County continued unabated. Our partnerships with local business associations to deliver effective street outreach services expanded. Our efforts to help folks obtain and maintain affordable housing persisted, and our work to divert individuals with behavioral health conditions away from our criminal legal systems and towards supportive services intensified. The way we have gone about sustaining these essential services in the midst of a dangerous virus with a predilection for people with medically complex and compromised conditions has been, to say the least, incredibly inspiring. As a result of our focus and determination, we have had a remarkably low incidence of infection among our staff and program participants. Put simply, this team has put their lives on the line to protect the health of our communities day after day after day since the start of the pandemic. Of course, as you can imagine, there were huge unforeseen expenses related to COVID-19, but we haven't let that stop us. Our governmental partners have come through, but it's individual donors, people like you, who stepped up and helped close the funding gap, which has enabled us to provide continuous services even at the height of the pandemic's first phase. I do need to tell you, however, that some of the sources we have depended on are running out. We're going to have to continue to rely on philanthropic support and turn again toward our supporters. We are committed to redoubling our efforts as long as the pandemic persists, and we hope you are also committed to sticking with us. We are truly stronger when rooted in community. At Evergreen, we grow and learn together, intertwining our roots to make our communities stronger. Before we proceed with our program, I'd like to make a few acknowledgements. First, we have a number of elected officials joining us tonight, including Seattle City Council member Joe McDermott, Olympia City Council member Michael Stedman, and Seattle City Prosecutor Pete Holmes. Thank you for being with us. As you can see from the slide that's about to pop up in front of you, we have outstanding sponsor support. A special thank you to each and every one of our 35 sponsors. It is your generosity that makes this event so successful. Thank you for your support and your partnership. Next, I want to recognize the 34 couch captains who have recruited their friends and family to attend this event. Thanks to all of you for your work behind the scenes. And finally, we at Evergreen are so very fortunate to have the support and guidance of an outstanding board of directors. Our board is a volunteer appointment, so these dedicated folks commit their own time and energy to support our mission. I want to personally thank each and every member of our board.